Hola, mi nombre es Dalma. Siempre he trabajado por la niñez, junto con mi esposo y mi madre y mis hijos. Bueno, ya he cumplido 10 años trabajando por la niñez, pero comenzó con una niña llamada Charina. Charina es la que tiene síndrome de Down, que es niños especiales. Charina estaba muy deshidratada y estaba en unas condiciones muy mal. Estaba muy flaca. Pues ya yo viendo la condición de la niña, no pude aguantar más. Y ahí fue cuando la llevamos al hogar. Con el tiempo comenzaron a llegar niñas y tuvimos ahí en ese entonces 18 niñas. Había niñas que dormían hasta en el suelo, en colchoncito. Con el tiempo comenzaron a pedirme la casa. Y tanto mi madre como yo comenzamos a orar y todas las niñas comenzaron a orar porque ellas pensaban, ¿para dónde vamos? Siempre pasaba por este lugar, pero nunca había visto este lugar como lo vi ese día. El señor que estaba cuidando esta propiedad me enseñó todo, pero me decía, él solamente decía, esto cuesta mucho dinero. Pero donde quiera que yo pasaba mi mano por las paredes. Yo declaraba hogar de niña, que este lugar fuera un hogar de niña, pasito de Jesús. Muchas de esas niñas vienen abusadas por sus padrastros, por sus padres, por sus abuelos. Otras vienen abandonadas, otras son huérfanas de padre vivo. Cuando las niñas llegan con un corazón roto, porque el enemigo allí se ha encargado de destruir lo que se llama la familia. Comenzamos a hablarle de Cristo. Y es un privilegio ser madre, de cómo poder experimentar lo que es tener un niño en sus brazos y darle amor. De las niñas que están aquí, perdón, quizá ya no puedan recibir ese abrazo de la mujer que la tiró al mundo. Es algo muy triste cuando Dios le da un regalo a una persona y no sepan valorizar ese regalo. Ellas saben que yo soy su madre, pero no su madre que la ha parido, sino una madre espiritual. Cuando nosotros aportamos para el Señor nos bendice.
So I know for me, art has to mean something. Just with the busyness of life and the busyness of teaching, we've talked about that as art teachers, that it's so hard to find time to do your own work. And so that's one of the reasons that we wanted to do the show is what an amazing motivation to know that you're giving an amazing gift to someone, you know, that these girls are going to receive these portraits and it's a way for us to say, hey, you're seen, you're loved. We recognize who you are and we want to do something kind for you. And so that was our motivation just as teachers is what a fun way to create work that has a meaning and has a purpose as well. In this room you see 35 portraits. 34 of these are girls, real girls from the Dominican Republic who I had the chance to meet actually, and they're girls who have pasts, they're girls who have background stories, come from situations that we can't comprehend. They're girls who have hurts that they're dealing with, but they're also girls who have hopes and dreams. There's Dama in here, just an amazing story of a woman who has changed the lives of so many, more than these 35 girls. And she's done that just through her faith and her obedience. And so with these portraits, I know a lot of times it's easy to see see needs in an abstract way. I know that there are needs in the community, I know that there are needs in the world, but sometimes I get distracted from those as a real thing, something that's tangible. And so with these portraits, we hope that you see these as real people. People who are living right now in the Dominican Republic, going about their business in the Dominican Republic. And we hope with these portraits you appreciate kind of the way that the details have been meticulously drawn in, that we've meditated on the way their hair has fallen, that we've kind of tried to portray the twinkle in their eye and all of those things, and we hope you appreciate that. But more than that, we hope that you see these girls in a new perspective. Art has always been doing that throughout history. It has the ability to tell stories, to create emotions, to show things in a new and different way, and that's what we hope that you see here with these portraits, that you see these girls, these needs in a new perspective.
Our time at Pasitos de Jesus kind of drove home like a really strong point, and that point being that it only takes one. One woman saw an injustice, she stepped out in faith, she made a decision that would later impact, we have no idea how many lives this side of heaven, but she saw a girl that was in need, that was not being treated well, and she took her in, and that just led to just a lifelong commitment and passion to caring for girls, to bringing girls off the streets, to bringing girls out of abusive situations, and just loving on girls and showing them hope. If you look around the room, you will see portraits of girls that Dalma quite possibly saved their lives, saved them from lives of abuse, and has offered these girls a sanctuary and hope from a really rough situation.
So I've actually been to Los Pasitos twice. The first time I went was just completely eye-opening. The girls there were they were just so filled of joy. They taught us more than what we could have possibly taught them. They just set a perfect example of loving others and shining with God's glory.
This show has really been so many just things that have been woven together in the way that God has worked through this story. And it all started this past spring where we were working with my students. I was working with my students in high school for a project called the Memory Project, where you do portraits for children across the world. And the goal is just as an act of kindness, as an act of love. And so I was doing a couple of these portraits, and I kind of thought about it. I'm like, you know what, this would be so fun to do with my colleagues, with the other teachers. I know we all kind of struggle with being able to do our own work and having the time to do our own work. And so God just kind of laid that on my heart, and it was one of those things where He laid it on my heart, and I'm kind of like, I'm not going to say anything about it. And I ended up just sending out the text to all of my teacher friends and said, hey, would you guys be interested in this? And they all jumped on it, and they're like, yes, that sounds awesome. That sounds so much fun. And so fast forward to this summer, my church was going on a missions trip to the Dominican Republic. A team of about 16 of us were going down there, and so we're down in the Dominican Republic, and the first place that we go to is an orphanage called Los Pasitos. It's an all-girls orphanage, and I was in charge of kind of coming up with a craft that we could do with them. So down in the Dominican Republic, we're at Los Pasitos, the first place we go to, and we're doing the craft, and just like I do when I'm teaching, I kind of introduce the craft, I oversee, I'm walking around to everyone, making sure that everyone understands what's going on, and once everyone gets into the craft, I decide, okay, it's time to sit down and start connecting with some of these girls. And so I see this girl off to the side kind of by herself, and she's just like doodling. She was done with kind of the craft that we were doing, and she was doodling on a scrap sheet of paper and just doing some music notes. And so in my really broken Spanish, I say la música, and she kind of smiles and nods her head, and so I kind of gesture to turn her head towards me, and I start doing just a really rough portrait of her face, just trying to connect. She's drawing, so I'm going to draw too with her. And so she kind of sees what I'm doing, and she gets a smile on my face. She runs over, grabs a new sheet of paper that's clean, and she kind of sits it in front of me and then just straightens up and faces me, and just giving me the go-ahead to do a portrait of her. And so I sit down and I do a portrait of her, and she's just kind of shyly smiling throughout the whole thing. A couple girls start to kind of gather around us, and this one girl beside her, I can understand more than I can speak, actually says something to the effect of, I think you're prettier in that picture than you are in real life, which we're just laughing at. And so I get done with the portrait, and she just is beaming. I mean, she has this this twinkle in her eye, and you could tell she was very soft-spoken and very quiet, but she was just like so proud of that portrait. And so another girl jumps in and she does the same thing. She hands me a piece of paper, and so I start doing a portrait of her, and pretty soon I have a group of probably like 9 or 10 girls around just kind of watching me do this. And at this point the team is getting ready to leave, and they're kind of gathering things up and getting situated, and they're gonna go on a tour, and I'm like, no, it's fine, I'll stay here and I'll do another one. So I have another girl kind of jump in, and I had to squeeze through hers. And it was at that moment where I just kind of see all these girls come around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, God, you're so cool. This is what you had in mind the whole time, you know, with the portraits. Like, I think we're gonna do portraits of this orphanage and of these girls. And so that is a pretty scary thing to commit to when you're there with, 40 girls-ish, and you're like, okay, we're gonna do portraits, and I haven't checked in with my fellow art teachers to see, hey guys, is this okay? Is this what we were thinking? But I'm like, no, I think we're gonna do it. And so I say something to our mission leader, Kevin. I said, hey, Kevin, I think we can do portraits of all the girls. And he says, all right. I said, well, we need pictures. And he's like, yeah, we'll get it figured out. We'll come back later in the week. We'll get pictures of them all. And the whole time I'm just feeling like, oh my gosh, God, soften the hearts of these teachers that they're gonna be okay with doing, lots of portraits of lots of girls, since I hadn't double checked. And just like he always does, he worked everything out and he wove everything together. And this was the plan that he had all along.